Top 8 controversial moments in Episode 1 of House of the Dragon. The first episode of House of the Dragon is out and has already created enough uproar among the fans. As the prequel to the popular show Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon had earned quite a fanbase even before the show aired on television. Now that it has, we have gone through the entire episode and found some significant conspiracies and controversies that will lead to the civil war known as the Dance of the Dragons. Welcome to Binge Buddha. In this video, we will explore the top 8 controversial moments in episode 1 of House of the Dragon. But before we begin, please consider subscribing to us. It may be a small click, but it goes a long way for us. Let's begin, shall we? Number 1. Otto Hightower's ulterior motives. Otto Hightower is the king's hand. He advises the king on political matters. Soon after the demise of Queen Aemma, the king's succession is in jeopardy. He presents the king with his options: the rogue brother Prince Daemon Targaryen, or the firstborn female heir, Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen. But Otto's distaste for Daemon makes him side with Rhaenyra, as he presents her as king's best option. There are others with a claim to the throne, like Princess Rhaenys Targaryen, as pointed out by her husband Corlys, who has a male heir. The king dismisses the council and calls them crows who came to feast on the death of his wife and child. But Otto has ulterior motives. He wishes to grow in his ranks and asks his daughter Alicent Hightower, a close acquaintance of Princess Rhaenyra, to visit the newly widowed king in his chambers. The request makes Alicent uncomfortable, but Otto won't listen to it. He asks her to wear one of her mother's dresses and visit the king in his chamber, which she so does. Otto's intentions with this move might get more explicit in the next episodes. But the book lovers know that this step will later lead to the events that cause the Civil War, commonly known as the Dance of the Dragons. Number 2. The love for incest. George R.R. Martin specified in the novel that the relationship between Rhaenyra and Daemon was more than that of the niece and uncle. They were lovers in the novel and were later married. The first episode of the House of the Dragon hinted at the future for Daemon and Rhaenyra Targaryen. As Daemon is missing from the council, Rhaenyra is informed by his guard that he is in the throne room, so she goes to her uncle. She finds him sitting on the Iron Throne. Upon questioning, he tells her he is sitting on the throne that one day will be his. In a fun banter, she points out that the Tourneys are being held for the king's heir, and he believes that he is the one, knowing full well that the queen is pregnant, and will deliver a baby any day. Rhaenyra, on the other hand, wishes that the baby is a boy, so her father finally gets his heart's desire. Daemon presents her with a gift, a piece of jewelry made from Valyrian steel, just like Daemon's sword, Dark Sister. He ties the neckpiece around her and says, "Now, you and I both own a small piece of our ancestry." Later, at the time of her mother's funeral, Daemon becomes a voice of reason when Rhaenyra expresses her hate towards King Viserys. He tells her that her father needs her now more than ever and supports her until she is strong enough to move forward with the funeral progressions. To Rhaenyra, Daemon has always been her confidant, backbone, and most trusted partner. For Daemon, Rhaenyra is his perfect match. She is strong-willed, confident, and his queen. But the relationship among them has been frowned upon for centuries by the Seven Kingdoms. Number 3. King Viserys murdered his wife. The tourney was a full force when King Viserys was called with some disturbing news: the queen's pregnancy presented with a complication. He rushes to the delivery room and sees his wife screaming with pain. The maester tells the king that he must choose to sacrifice one or let the queen and the baby die. He gives him hope that they can save the child by cutting directly at the womb, but the blood loss will surely kill Queen Aemma. After all the promises the king made to his wife, his want for a male heir was so strong that he chose to save the boy by murdering his wife. Without telling his wife, the king gestures to the healers to make the incision, and the innocent queen, now confused by the events, screams in pain as they tear her womb open. As predicted, the blood loss kills the queen. The king cries for the loss of her wife. When soon he gets the news that the baby is a boy, he names the boy Balon, but soon the baby takes his last breath, leaving Rhaenyra Targaryen the last surviving child of King Viserys and Queen Aemma. Number 4. The Rule of Men. HBO series Game of Thrones witnessed some of the most influential female characters of all time taking the lead, and it seems as if the prequel will show a much more difficult road for the female leads rising to the top. The show's pilot focused on the sexist environment in the realm. It opens with the excellent council present before King Jaehaerys Targaryen to choose the heir to the king. He had two options: the king's eldest descendant, Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen, and her youngest cousin Prince Viserys Targaryen, the king's eldest male descendant. Even though Princess Rhaenyra was considered a worthy queen, beloved by all, and skilled in the art of politics, the Great Council chose a man to lead, and thus began another decade of sexism in King's Landing. King Viserys always wanted a son and had forced his wife to go through several pregnancies, out of which she lost one babe in the cradle, 2 stillbirths, and 2 miscarriages. Now, she was pregnant with another. The desire for a male heir had King Viserys making some bad decisions, and even though he ultimately named Rhaenyra as his heir, he remarries Alicent Hightower. He has 4 children with Alicent, but all for naught. The men in House of the Dragon treat their women harshly. Daemon disrespects his wife in front of the council, whereas Otto sends his daughter to the newly widowed king's chambers. Hopefully, the women in the series rise above the dominating men, and emerge strong and fierce. Number 5. The Maiming by the City Watch. Daemon Targaryen was made the commander of the City Watch by the hand of the king, Otto Hightower, who gave him this position as a measure to keep him away from the throne. Otto considered Daemon the most dangerous person in the realm and hated his guts. Daemon was given several undisciplined savages to train in combat, and he made them into the organization for which they are now famous. The City Watch was immensely loyal to Daemon, and one night he tells them that the city has been swarming with crime which needs to be controlled by making an example of the criminals. They gather large numbers and ride into the city, capturing the criminals. Every crime has its punishment: those who steal will lose their hands, the molesters will be castrated, and the murderer will be beheaded in front of the entire public. The maimed body parts of the criminals were later put in a cart and taken away. The entire tarnished Daemon's and the City Watch's reputation among the council members. Otto even suggested his removal to the king, but few agreed to Daemon's measure, claiming it would lessen the city's crime. Number 6. Daemon provoking Otto Hightower. Daemon Targaryen and Otto Hightower were constantly at each other's throats in the novel, and it seems like the series will also take the same path. After Daemon takes the City Watch into the city, maiming the criminals, he joins the council to answer for his actions. There, Otto Hightower advises the king that the prince shouldn't be allowed to act with such unchecked impunity and asks Daemon to explain his actions. Daemon replies that the Watch was enforcing the crown's laws. Otto counters that making a scene of public brutality is no way to enforce the law. The banter continues as some support Otto while others agree with Daemon. Later, Otto mentions that Daemon hasn't been seen at Vale or in Runestone with his wife. It irks Daemon, and he claims he would be happy to give Otto his wife if he wishes to warm the bed in the absence of Otto's now deceased wife. In anger, Otto gets up from his seat, but King Viserys handles the situation and asks everyone to calm down. No further action is taken for the brutality of the City Watch, but the king warns Daemon not to let anything like this happen again. Number 7. The Bloodshed at the Tourneys. The Tourneys were a tournament King Viserys held for his new heir before he was even born. Incidentally, the Queen goes into labor the day of the tournament. Lords of many different houses came to compete in what should have been a playful celebration but soon turned into an attempt at power. The game was simple: 2 warriors on different ends would mount their horses with a spear in their hands. They have to attack their opponent and make them fall off the horses. In the beginning, the rounds were peaceful and exciting. Soon, the green grass was covered in the blood of the warriors, heads were bashed in, knees smashed, and eyes popped out. Many warriors lost their lives in the essence of fun and games. Princess Rhaenyra and callers commented on the sport's unnecessary violent nature, and the audience turned their heads, disgusted by the gore. Number 8. Daemon's celebration of death. Daemon Targaryen was always confident in standing as the next in line to the throne. Queen Aemma, pregnant with yet another child who could be a male heir, didn't waver his confidence. After the funeral of Queen Aemma and the newborn son Balon, the court is in mourning, but Daemon Targaryen is seen at the pleasure house with his buddies from the City Watch. They are celebrating the rise of Daemon Targaryen, the king's sole heir, cheering for the death of the new heir. Midway through it, Daemon makes a toast in which he addresses Balon the heir for a day. Otto Hightower informs the king about the ordeal. The king gets angry and confronts Daemon about the accusations. He calls King Viserys weak, surrounded by opportunists, which leads to King Viserys commanding Daemon to leave King's Landing, informing him that he is not the king's heir anymore. That was all in this video. Do hang around for more film and pop culture content. Also, do leave a comment on your favorite moment from the episode. Stay safe, and have a good one.